Hi there, welcome to Nighttime Line Talks. Hola, bienvenidos a Charlas de la Noche, Palabras con Imagen. Well, tonight we were informed by our editorial partner in Mexico that one close member to the president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, she was positive, or she tested positive to coronavirus-19. She is Irma Heréndira Sandoval. Her position is Secretaria de la Función Pública. That means business administration, basically. But she is married with an American citizen, John Ackerman, naturalized Mexican citizen, who is going to be in charge of the electoral procedures for next elections, commission that was assigned apparently by the President López Obrador. But the case here is that this lady was days before holding meetings with the President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. So there are some polemics on that regard because people is afraid for the health of the President of Mexico that is old. Well, I believe that he and Donald Trump are contemporary of the same age. I'm not going to induct those personal details, but the issue here is that if the President of Mexico get ill, Secretario de Gobernación, the Interior Department Minister, has to take care of the government. Meanwhile, the President recovers. In case he doesn't recover, they have to call two elections. They convert the Congress in electoral college and they decide to request general elections. And this is because this President López Obrador is not 2 years on the power yet. He is going to complete the 2 years on December 1st of this year, 2020. But many political analysts are already taking care of the details because, as you know, there are many questions on the regard of some actions that the President is taking on his administration. So I'm not going to jump to the conclusions. I am not going to speculate, but just keep in mind and be careful. Why? Because many things, as I told you in previous chapters, Mexico and US not only share one of the longest border in the world, also is the most crossed by legal and undocumented people. Now, the cherry on the cake is that tonight the president and CEO of Tyson is the largest producer of packing chicken, and the poultry industry here in Georgia especially is big. And there is a small town at northwest, called Gainesville. In Gainesville, there are one of the largest packing companies for Tyson, and they pack along 26 plants in the United States chicken for the whole American market, and they export to Canada and they export to Mexico. So the majority of the workers are Mexicans. And as you heard on the news, also in the pork meat plants, some employees were contaminated of COVID-19, and one worker, Mexican worker, passed away. So federal authorities ordered an investigation, and what they did basically is, what they did basically was check in a sanitary inspection, and they decide to close the plants temporarily. And President Trump told to his team in charge of this project, ordered to the executive, pay the salaries and medical services to all employees, no matter they are undocumented, no matter what they are coming from. Everyone is going to receive their income and medical treatments in case they result ill. And all of them were checked for the coronavirus. And the reason why I bring it under your attention is because at least 500,000 Mexicans work on the meat packing plants in America. It's popular. If you eat chicken, it's been processed by Mexican hands. Pork, the same way, and some beef packing companies do the same. So it's important because that represents a situation that in the medium term is going to affect Mexico too. Why? Because these families wire a lot of money to Mexico. They wire money transfers to their relatives, their parents, and everyone. So it is important that authorities control this situation very well. And I am sure the Mexican authorities are aware of it and taking care of, and as soon they resolve the situation in Mexico, where also are problems, they are going to deal with the people working in America. And some consulates, well, the majority of the consulates involved are already supervising that situation. Consulate people is working. Even offices are semi-closed because they are working and attending emergencies, but they are not processing some things that don't represent a rush. Only situations that are very important for Mexican Americans and Mexicans in general. So relax, don't stress. Everybody in the government of both sides of the border is helping our connationals. So this situation of the virus is, as President Trump says, if we respect the isolation with the quarantine and everybody gets treatment or get the test, is a better control for everything. By the way, more check-in places are open along United States. Largest pharmacies brands, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, etc., are providing the test of coronavirus. It is completely free. It is in 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Korean. So feel free to stop by, and it's coordinated by the National Guard. So you don't need to get down from your car. What you have to do is process an online appointment. At the time you are there, respect the spaces and don't leave the car. Stay in your car. So they come to you, they check, taking the sample, They take your phone number and some information. Later, they contact you with the results. And guess what? Apple and Google are participating on this project as per request of President Trump and the sanitary authorities. Why? Because they are going to compile your cellular number and your test reference. And the way it's going to work, they are going to respect privacy. Nobody is going to know any details. But for example, if I go tomorrow to the gas station to pump gas, because now we are open for business, keeping the social distance, and if I see someone that result positive, I receive an alert on my phone telling, hey, Francisco, be careful. You are 3 feet close to a person that result positive or is ill and he haven't taken the treatment yet. I believe it is very helpful. I believe we need to do that because as this is an invisible enemy, we must check and follow the instructions. Number one. Number two, I mentioned last week the government of Ohio sued the government of China for hiding the information when the problem begins. They haven't said anything for 6 days, and they allow people to travel all over the world, travel to many countries, and spread the virus everywhere. So many American Chinese families are suing the government of China because they don't prevent them, they don't take care of the details to say, hey, be careful, there is a pandemic, you must stay where you are and let's go to control it. Well, and the authorities like Dr. Anthony Fauci and the director of the Center for Disease Control in America are announcing that many tests are available. But I believe that 29 companies report with the test. But they are checking which ones are reliable, which ones are good to use, and they receive a donation from the Chinese government, and they send test kits. And guess what? Those test kits are not working. They are not trustable. And people must not use, and authorities deny to receive that, and they send back or throw it away. I'm not sure what they do. But pharmaceutical companies are using the test kits that are being approved by the government, by the authorities of the health department. Sorry, it's day and the sunlight is too bright and the camera do not adjust easier. Anyway, but I don't like to lose track about what I am talking about, and please accept my apologies. But I consider that this is more important if we pay attention on the topics than the sunlight on my face. I am ugly, so I don't care. You don't need to wash me. Just meanwhile you listen what I'm talking about, I believe that is enough to understand. And coming back to the topic, in United States of America, some states are opening for business. Obviously, New York is not open. They are staying, waiting. But there is a lot of migration between states. Many people, for example, students who are in some colleges in New York, were forced to go back home at the time the pandemic begins. And the risky factor is that they come back to their house and they haven't tested yet. And that is the priority authorities like to do. Test everyone, test the people who is really coming from ground zero. That means New York City. It's sad and cost me a lot to recognize that a beautiful city, plenty of cosmopolitan environment, headquarters of the financial markets, headquarters of the fashion, headquarters of the television business, showbiz, wherever, headquarters of the finest restaurants and wonderful chefs, that they are donating food everywhere in America. Lord bless them, honestly, because they are keeping a great effort. Even they don't know if they are going to recover their capital. They are giving away all the food they have on the walk-ins. They cook and deliver to people. Why? Because they consider that is their own responsibility to pay back to the Americans that for years and years crowd their restaurants. Wow, what a sad story. I never have an idea that I'll be living a situation of pandemic warning, worldwide pandemic. And a friend of mine told me that his wife and his in-laws just came back from ground zero in China, Wuhan, and days after they declared the pandemic. I knock on wood and I pray for them and I hope they feel okay. And what we are going to do with this production, please discard the video, just use the audio and listen, because I look like the opera phantom. What happens is the camera of my computer is for office environment lights, and I have a huge window here in my studio, in my home, and I have the sunlight of the sunset, and I have no choice. I discovered it too late. But coming back to the topics and approaching this lighting glitch, think that I'm not the person talking to you. Think I am somebody else sent by a coincidence to your digital network, and think, close your eyes for a second and think about that wonderful people that stay day and night to help others. Physicians, nurses, first responders, policemen, many people who is doing a great effort to help others. Imagine how this life that they are risking, because they are fathers, they are brothers and sisters, they are husbands, they have a life, and these people is doing their best effort to help this society in a time that is an unpredicted enemy, like everybody says, invisible enemy, is traveling everywhere by several things. It can be a stick on the airplane's cabins. It can be a stick on the luggage. It can be stick on clothes, or I don't know. But the first element I like to approach on this sequence of comments is, if you already close your eyes and you don't like to be worried on this regard, because many people is already tired, the fatigue of the cabin fever on the insulation is creating, according to the experts, beginning today, Monday, April 27, is producing a special effect in our emotions. So even people try to do a video, to play with the family, to teach their kids pending classes, many things, cooking, walking, etc. The worries are still there. The concerns about what we are going to do when we back on track is a very emotional distress. Even I have a job, thanks to Lord, I am very stressed because in my family I have somebody in high risk. So I take a lot of measures. I broke a lot of cleaners, Clorox, ammonia, many things, and I try to clean the house twice or 3 times a week. We do laundry almost every day to clean everything. When I go outside, we put our clothes in a plastic bag, in a garbage bag, and we leave it outside, including the shoes. So once we have enough clothes, we put on the laundry machine and we use a disinfectant plus the detergents and everything people use to do the laundry. But this situation is a challenge that is going to stay here probably for a long time. And if we survive, we are getting a big lesson on our habits, on the way we cook, on the way we live, on the way we interact with others, especially Mexicans, because we found a friend. Oh, good to see you, and a kiss and the hug, and we are very interactive in social relations, in the same way with Cubans, Colombians, Central Americans, Argentinians, Peruvians, everybody. We use the kiss and a hug to say hello, and cost me a lot because I found people in sometimes and social distance, don't come too close, don't do anything, wearing the mouth cover, the gloves, wearing everything. But in sometimes emotion as a normal activity on your brain, in your character, make you think ahead. What if? And in sometimes I was noticed a few friends who result positive, and we cannot turn our back on them. They are good friends, and we have to show some sponsorship, but I don't know how we can do that because we are at home isolated. My friends are isolated. Their families even are at home. Meanwhile, Couple friends are in the hospital under treatment with the respirators and everything. Families are not allowed to visit. Families are not allowed to stay there. They receive an email every day with the report of how the patient is feeling that day. That's it. So the change in our lives is deep. Very, very deep, honestly. And look, major anchormen, anchorwomen are doing their shows from their living rooms, as I am doing right now. Why? Because everything is different now, and everything is going to be that way for a while. Even we gradually back to work, people is going to expect to see what is the side effect of that back to the normal activities, because not everyone agrees with the opening of restaurants, tattoo salons, some public offices, and some places that are already servicing Americans. People disappoint, and many of them are showing online on the social networks, trying to do hashtags and trending topics to oppose to this opening. But as the governor Brian Kemp of Georgia says, is not everything open. And look how smart he was. He's announcing the opening for business in Georgia, but he announced that the visits to the governor's mansion are interrupted by the pandemic. Also, the visits and the tours to the Georgia capital, are interrupted too. Nobody can take those tours on the meantime. So many situations are canceled. I have a friend who works on CNN, and CNN has a tour for visitors. People pay like $20 if it's a regular tour, and if they like a tour, better tour visiting the newsroom, they pay like $50, and they take them in a special visit along the newsroom and the studios. But everything is canceled. By the way, I was informed this morning when those friends called me that, Joe Biden, the Democratic candidate, is holding press conference online from his basement or sometimes from his garage. Well, years ago, Joe Biden have an accusation of sexual harassment, and the lady who accused Joe Biden was interviewed by Larry King on CNN. Guess what? The tape with the interview disappeared from CNN archives. Nobody knows where is it. Nobody knows what happens with it. Completely gone. And it's sad because CNN has the best library in the world of television. Let me tell you why. When Ted Turner opened cable news network, he was informed that a TV station in San Francisco filed for bankruptcy. They closed the station. Well, Ted Turner sent people, and they buy the whole library of videotapes. They acquired the library from this TV channel in San Francisco, and they integrate and stream it into the CNN library. So CNN has a lot of footage because this station opens at the beginning of the television business. So they have all the San Francisco's earthquakes images. They have a lot of stuff, and that enrich, that enhance the CNN footage on the air all the time. There are a lot of stories behind CNN. Even they were labeled with the fake news for the problems with the White House. Let me crystal clear this. I work there. They are not fake news. I be part of many projects with Ted Rubinstein, with Michael Hessing, with David Martin, and a lot of nice people. Excuse me. It makes me sad when people use the fake news adjective. It's not true. One day, John Schiff, director of creative services of CNN, gave to my son a CNN hat at the end of a project. Sorry. And guess what? My son kept that hat as one of his favorite souvenirs he have. Last year he buy a car with his income as a professional, and he buy a fancy Cooper. And he decides keep at the panel always, excuse me, his CNN hat. Well, one day he was attending an event and he takes his hat to wear it, and a man passed by and yelled him, "Oh, you are fake news." And I told my son, "You know what, son? I am so glad you don't answer such retaliations or provocations, whatever you like to call, because only the people who work in Turner Broadcasting System on the 1980s at the beginning, opening Cartoon Network, TNT, with Scott Sassa, Charlotte Leonard, John Petrovich, very prominent people, Ted Turner, many important talents. Only we know what's going on. And fake news is the wrong way to label a such professional team. Nothing can be fake news. Even they lost a tape with the accusation against Joe Biden, but they are making an effort. CNN is covering one side of the story, probably. Others don't like. As well, Fox cover the Republican opinion, the Republican side. Excuse me. But many networks are doing their own part. And it's evident that the world of news grows too fast. And now every network that represents a political party, an entrepreneurs group, wherever, focus the story under that perspective. But I told them, to the audience in several programs, the day you like to know what's going on, you must watch what way they handle about this story on every network. And it's the only way to understand which one is neutral and which one is not. So news business is changing also, and news business is tough. And let me explain you. Media is losing money like running water. People don't watch the news on television anymore. They watch home videos made from the cellular, from a neighbor that was on the scene of the story, that was beside somebody, and tape it and upload to YouTube. Chicago Tribune fired all the photographers, and now they use pictures from the social networks. And every media is changing that way. In fact, this pandemic, excuse me, this pandemic is beginning a casting to select from people who is doing their home videos, to hire them for movie makers, as actors, and many things are going to change drastically. Just let me tell you this. When I start to work on Turner Broadcasting System, a play of a commercial on CNN, for example, worth $60,000, 20 seconds commercial. That was on the 1980s. When the 1990s came on and cable has more competition, the price of the same commercial drops to $40,000. So the internet and the social networks start very aggressive. Well, let me tell you, right now, they have to combine commercials. Cable operators have Q-tones, and they use the sectors where they air the signal, and they play local commercials. That is why you are watching CNN, and sometimes you see the tail of other commercial ending the one you were looking, because they overlap commercials all over the signal. And in sometimes they only respect the national feed to play the national brands that pay a contract. But that commercials are not expensive anymore. They are under the same commercial. They used to pay $60,000. Right now the play for a commercial is around $2,000. But this is still a good business if they know how to administrate it. But between the globalization of media and this pandemic, everything is going to be different. Everything is going to move ideas, move different perspectives on the daily living. But if you stay on your real idea, on your real perspective, nothing is going to move you. I highly suggest you look for a poem written by Clipping Rudyard called If. I really love that poem. Clipping Rudyard won the Nobel Award, but he was in India studying in an English university. He is from the generation of Gandhi, and I really love it. I leave you that as a homework. If, by Clipping Rudyard. I love it. Sorry for the lighting problems, sorry for the discrepancies on everything, but I really enjoy it because I have a lot of free time. Even I back to work, I still doing many things from home, telecommuting, and I talk to you tomorrow. Thank you and have a great day.